Welcome to Fight News Now. I'm your host, John Pollock, and it's one of the biggest weeks of the year in mixed martial arts as the UFC presents two cards from Las Vegas as part of International Fight Week, and we're going to get you caught up on both of those events. Today, we'll hear from Alexis Davis in an exclusive chat. John Ramdian and Robin Black are here for 3 rounds to preview the highlights for this weekend's cards, and The Shift will deliver you from evil. But up first, we welcome in Alexis Davis just days before her bout with Ronda Rousey. UFC 175 is coming up Saturday, July the 5th. It's going to feature 2 title fights. Chris Weidman defending his middleweight title against Lyoto Machida, and Ronda Rousey will defend her UFC bantamweight championship against our guest at this time, Canadian Alexis Davis. Alexis, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, enjoying life.
Going back to Ronda Rousey's last opponent in Sarah McMahon, she took the tact of removing herself and not doing as many interviews building up the fight. She just strictly wanted to train, and even for someone that's competed in the Olympics, she seemed almost rattled by this giant stage. What did you think of how Sarah McMahon went into that fight? You know what?
Every fighter, that's what we want to do. We just want to go. We kind of want to, well, I would say most fighters, I want to go train. We don't want to just do our thing, but, when you kind of hit a level like this, there's so much more, there's more promotional parts through the media that you have to deal with. If you want to just train, if you want to just fight, this is probably not the promotion for you. You have to get, you got to get your name out there. You have to get the fight out there. You want people to watch. You want the fans to see you fight.
We've seen you post lots of photos online training at Team Alpha Male. Is that where you've primarily spent this camp getting ready?
Actually, out in San Jose, I've been doing my camp along with the same guys over at Combat Sports Academy and over at Coyoteras, but, just kind of wanted to add that, extra element of wrestling, that strong wrestling, and, what better place to do it than Alpha Male? You have such high-level wrestlers there, and, guys aren't just wrestlers, but, they're world-class MMA fighters as well, so it's a different spin on things, and, it's been a great opportunity.
And for your wrestling, were you mainly working under Lance Palmer, who kind of oversees all the wrestling there at Team Alpha Male?
Yeah, and Lance is great. He's helped me out a lot. I know Uriah was jumping in. TJ was in last week, so it's great. Yourself
and Ronda Rousey, you guys share a lot of similar training partners. Has that been a problem in putting this camp together, where there is that overlap?
It hasn't really. It was kind of something that we thought about when I first moved to California, but it's a large group of fighters in California, but it's still kind of small. There's you're going to come across people that have, they've either trained with Ronda or, I know I had another training partner down with Misha, and like one day I could end up fighting Misha, but you're just gonna kind of come across that and kind of stick to it more of on a professional level.
Well, Alexis, I want to thank you very much for the time. It's UFC 175 coming up Saturday, July the 5th, as Alexis Davis goes for the UFC Bantamweight Championship against Ronda Rousey in one of the main events of the evening, happening on pay-per-view. Thank you very much for the time, Alexis, and all the best leading up to July the 5th.
Thank you very much.
We'll now take a look at the other title fight that's happening on Saturday night, which pits middleweight champion Chris Weidman against Lyoto Machida, as Weidman sets out to defend his title for the second time after back-to-back wins over Anderson Silva in 2013. And we'll take a further look at Saturday's middleweight championship bout.
And new UFC middleweight champion of the world, Chris Weidman.
Ever since claiming the middleweight title at UFC 162 with a devastating knockout of long-defending champion Anderson Silva, Chris Weidman has been on a mission to legitimize his title reign. His first opportunity came in a rematch against the Spider at UFC 168. When that one ended with Anderson once again on his back, this time courtesy of a grisly leg break after a check kick, many fans still didn't give Weidman the credit he deserved.
I'm so new in this sport. I'm 11-0 now. People can't fathom the fact that I'm coming in here and beating guys, so I understand where people are coming from, but slowly but surely people start believing in me.
His next shot at respect would be set for UFC 173 against 2013 Fighter of the Year Vitor Belfort.
And they'll drop it down, and Belfort drops it. Vitor Belfort trying to finish off Anderson. Huge kick.
However, after Nevada banned testosterone replacement therapy, the Phenom would be pulled from that bout and replaced by former light heavyweight champion Lyoto Machida. Weidman versus Machida would then be pushed back to UFC 175 as Weidman decided to have surgery to correct his knee problems that he suffered in training for his UFC 168 bout.
I have some things floating around in my knee, torn meniscus, and probably a piece of, I don't know, cartilage. I'm probably screwing this up, what I'm saying right now.
So with his knees at 100%, Weidman will finally face someone other than Anderson Silva with the title on the line. After a tough stretch at light heavyweight that saw Machida go just 3-4, he made the move down to 185 pounds. His middleweight debut would come against longtime training partner Mark Munoz at UFC Fight Night 30 in London, England. After a short feeling out period, the Dragon would unleash a devastating head kick to the NCAA champion.
That's it! That's it! It's over! Just like that! You just nailed it! Wow!
Next up, the karate stylist would take on former Strikeforce champion Gegard Mousasi in a bout that saw the Brazilian pick apart his opponent with strikes.
Big kick for Machida! And Mousasi catches the leg, but he certainly absorbed that shot there.
As well as takedowns.
Well, Mousasi has had his moments as Machida throws him to the canvas there.
With a 2-0 record at middleweight and a long-held position in the top 10 at light heavyweight, Machida was the easy choice to take the #1 contender spot when Belfort was pulled from the card. Can Machida dethrone Weidman and claim his second title in as many weight classes, or will the champion reign supreme and finally earn the respect he's deserved all along? Odds makers see Weidman as the favorite on Saturday, but many experts see this as a tough test for Weidman against the always difficult style that Machida possesses and often succeeds in stifling opponents and frustrating them. We will now turn it over to our panel of experts as they make their predictions public and let us know who will be middleweight champion after UFC 175.
Weidman's a superhero of sorts, and Machida is a ninja. So it depends on what's either your team ninja or team superhero. I'm impartial.
It's an interesting fight. You know, Machida's got the footwork and he's really elusive, and Weidman's gonna have to follow him and catch him, bring his feet with him as he's striking.
He's fought, what, 2.5 rounds against Anderson Silva, and he's won 2.5 rounds. I don't care what anyone says. He's 2.5 rounds up to none, and he's got 2 KO victories. I know they're not the perfect KOs in somebody's world, but I'll take those 2 wins any day of the week.
He's got good stand-up, and his wrestling is very, very high level, and his jiu-jitsu is very, very high level as well. So I think if he takes the fight to the ground, he's got every chance of winning. I mean, he could probably even stand up a little bit with him, too.
Weidman's got the puncher's chance, of course. He's got the wrestling, of course. But Machida's very hard to hit. He's very elusive, and his footwork can win him the fight as far as just touching and moving and pulling and returning.
Machida's just an awkward style, and it's a very effectively awkward style. He doesn't engage all the time. He engages when he wants. So if Weidman can't figure out that problem there, he's going to have a nightmare.
This is a great chance for Weidman to cement his claim, even though I would argue that he has every right to right now.
I still think Weidman wins that fight, but I don't think he wins it standing.
I see that Machida can win this fight, but Chris as well. It's a 50-50 in my eyes.
Man, see, the hot seat's tough on this one. Yeah, it might be Machida by decision. I have a hard time doing that because I really like Weidman. I think he's amazing. I just think he might cause some problems early. I'd rather be sitting here saying Weidman by submission, but I don't know. I hope he proves me wrong. I think he's an amazing fighter, but I think it's just a hard matchup.
Machida is in the weight class that he should have always been, 185, but I think Weidman just has a momentum that might derail him. But honestly, anything can go in that fight.
We also went outside the world of mixed martial arts and spoke with legendary pro wrestler Stone Cold Steve Austin and got his prediction for Saturday's middleweight title fight, as Austin is an avid MMA fan and while promoting his new series Broken Skull Challenge, took some time to discuss this Saturday's 185-pound title fight.
Man, I tell you what, I'm such a Chris Weidman fan, and what that guy has been able to accomplish, and it seems like he was the kryptonite for Anderson Silva. You know, first with Silva started playing around, boom, the knockout, and then he breaks the leg on the check and the kick. So Weidman is double tough, highly skilled. He's the future of that division. Well, Lyoto Machida looks fantastic at 185. I've always been a fan of his. This is going to be a hell of a fight. And, you know, Weidman will really take another step up to really start cementing his legacy and his run with the win over Lyoto Machida. But it's not going to be an easy victory. And Lyoto Machida has all the tools, indeed, to defeat Chris Weidman. But I think the youth, the strength, the role that Weidman's on will prevail. But it's going to be a hell of a fight, and I will pay for it, and I will watch it.
24 hours after UFC 175, the UFC will run a second event from Las Vegas with the TUF 19 finale, as a light heavyweight and middleweight contract will be fought for. But the fight with all of the attention on this card is BJ Penn's debut at featherweight, where he meets former lightweight champion Frankie Edgar for a third time. And we check in with our experts to see if the third time will be the charm for BJ Penn.
I think the only thing that you could maybe lose with some time off is kind of performing in front of a large crowd, but BJ's Penn has been there and done it so many times. But my prediction still has to go with Frankie Edgar. I think Frankie has his number, and I think it's going to go the same way.
I just think it's Edgar for the hat trick. The last two fights, it was more dominant, and I think everyone has a person that they just can't beat. For Junior Dos Santos, it's Cain Velasquez. For Penn, it's Frankie Edgar.
And we now move to this week's tweet of the week, and it comes from Nick the Carney Lent, who is hoping to distract Cub Swanson and get a fight with the man that a lot see as the next contender for the featherweight gold, as Lentz looks to up his stock by getting a big fight at 145 pounds. And I'm here with a fired up John Ramdy, and he's fired up just for a whole litany of reasons, not the least of which are two cards coming up this Saturday night, and he's really stoked for 3 rounds. And why?
Oh my God, it's all about UFC 175, and then the following night, the Ultimate Fighter finale. Chris Weidman, one of the pound-for-pound best fighters on the planet, but will Lyoto Machida become the third man to become a 2-division champion?
On Sunday night, this man's going to be in a silo by himself with his Pride posters as he watches BJ Penn return to the octagon, and this man, he's going to be transformed into a 21-year-old again as BJ Penn returns. We'll chat about it on 3 rounds when we come back on Fight News Now. Welcome back to Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock, and the UFC will occupy the Mandalay Bay Event Center for 2 consecutive nights this weekend, with some big fights spread out. And into preview this weekend's action are our analysts John Ramdeen and Robin Black, as the UFC hits 175 and the TUF 19 finale coming up.
It is going to be a ton of action in Las Vegas, Nevada. The middleweight championship of the world on the line. Chris Weidman, the All-American, just really phenomenal with his skill set, with his mental focus, and his obviously his hard work has paid off, toppling Anderson Silva 2 times. Lyoto Machida, kind of a little bit different of an animal, because you look at Lyoto Machida's background. Of course, it's karate, and what a lot of people get into karate for, self-defense. And of course, Lyoto Machida is better at playing that defensive game than almost anybody in the entire sport. When he came into the UFC, people were booing him because he was playing that conservative style, the elusive style, as everybody called it. And then it's like, well, I don't understand. I'm winning fights. Why are people booing me? Oh, they want me to leave my opponents in a heap on the canvas. I'll do that too. But he knows how to use movement almost better than anybody. Will Chris Weidman be able to corner this guy up against the cage, force this fight down to the ground? Or do you think Chris Weidman's like, look, I knocked out Anderson Silva, I'll be able to knock out Lyoto?
I don't know, man. This is a good one. This is a great one. I believe in Chris Weidman. I believe in this guy's skills. I believe he's the real thing without question. And when you're a great champion like he's proven to be, you gotta beat the champion. Only this time it's not that simple. This time you gotta beat Machida. There's something about Machida. You can't win just by fighting well. You gotta solve him. So you'll look back, how can Weidman solve him? Well, he lost to Rampage Jackson. That was a split decision. Kind of not. Did he even really lose that one? He also lost to Phil Davis. Did he even really lose that one? Both guys played a smart offensive game with him. You look, John Jones. John Jones cornered him on the cage and beat him up in the clinch. Maybe you can do that. But I think it is the Shogun fights where there's the real answer. One Shogun timed him, and the other one, the fight that they gave to Machida, Shogun beat the crap out of his legs, and I think that's an element. So you got Ray Longo, who's a fantastic coach. He's also a direct descendant of Dan Inochante, who is a direct descendant of Bruce Lee in the Jeet Kune Do concept, so he understands traditional martial arts. Having said all that, it's just a killer fight. You have to watch it. There's a million ways to analyze it. You probably won't get this one right.
The co-main event, one of the best female fighters, if not the best female fighter on the planet, Ronda Rousey. Recently, she's had some comments saying, look, I am the best woman fighter on the planet. I will take out any girl in a gi, no gi, and any grappling sense of the word. Michelle Nicolini, Mackenzie Dern says, wait a second. put on a gi and come and see us. We're some of the best in the world. How about you take on Gabby Garcia? And I don't know if people have seen Gabby Garcia. If we can show a picture of her, I would love to see a matchup between Ronda Rousey and Gabby Garcia at some Meta Morris event. But her opponent on Saturday night, the Canadian Alexis Davis, going to be the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt that Ronda Rousey has faced inside of the octagon. Is it going to be easy for her to go after that arm? Or is it, you know what, we're going to change things up and go after something else?
Yeah, the tests have been very different for Ronda, and this is a different one again. But the big question for me, when she looks at the best jiu-jitsu women in the world and says, I can beat any one of these. One is she just trash-talking, because she does that very well. She's got a lot of confidence. She sells that confidence. Or is she delusional? Because she cannot beat these people. She is a well-rounded mixed martial artist with a judo base. She can beat any judo woman, although even that, you're training so much effort on striking, so much on movement, so much on the ground. Every skill, you're no longer a master of any one. You become sort of a semi-master of everything. She ain't beating nobody, no world-class jiu-jitsu champion at jiu-jitsu. You had some punches, she will knock those ladies unconscious. Of course. Alexis Davis has the black belt on the ground, but she also has fantastic striking. She's the most well-rounded that Ronda has faced. So how will that work? Can she keep it standing and hurt her? And if and when it goes to the mat, can she take a bit of dominant positions? If Ronda Rousey's a bit delusional right now, and that is possible, the greats can become that too, and Ronda Rousey, make no mistake, is a great, then Alexis Davis might surprise her.
What is surprising, you talk about surprising, Uriah Faber on the undercard, taking on Alex Caceres, and I, for one, am very impressed with the improvements that Alex Caceres has made. Bruce Leroy, since coming off the show, has really looked good. But this, to me, this matchup between him and Uriah Faber seems like a mismatch. I think that Caceres will be a star in the future, but I think Uriah Faber has his way with Caceres.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, everything in history of Uriah Faber has said that he should be able to do that. One, he's only lost to the greatest in the world, and Caceres is not that yet. Two, his wrestling is so elite, and that is the area that Caceres has been a work in progress. If Uriah just comes out there, I know he loves to strike. I know that's been the part of his game he's favored over the last couple of years. If he comes out there and just shoots a power double on this guy and starts playing that game, go for that mounted guillotine or work those elbows, make him feel the physicality, I think he can smash him up pretty good. I like the fact he's a main event on the undercard. It's a new look for him. It's a new opportunity for him. But for Caceres, this is the thought for him. One, some guys go, oh my God, it's the biggest fight ever. And some guys go, awesome, it's the biggest fight ever. It's my biggest opportunity. Can a guy like that rise and have the performance of a lifetime, understand the value of this opportunity and make the most of it? That's what we'll have to see.
I dig it. The following night, Frankie Edgar and BJ Penn lock horns for the third time. What do you anticipate from this? Are we going to see BJ Penn says he's reinvigorated, he's ready to perform, he loves to actually get in there and fight, he's not worried, he's going in there to put on a career-defining performance. Does he win this third fight?
Frankie Edgar's one of the best fighters in the world, and they already did 50 minutes, and Frankie won them. But BJ needs to fight this with his aggression, with his heart, with his desire, with that rabid mentality, and if he does that, he can win this fight.
John Pollock, BJ Penn has to hurt Frankie Edgar. If he can do that, he can take advantage of the smaller guy, and I, for one, think he might be able to do it.
Could be possible. Very hot down in Vegas, but it also will be freezing over when Pat Miletich and Dana White embrace.
That's awesome.
As he goes into the Hall of Fame. Thank you very much, guys. And while I will be down in Las Vegas covering the shows, Ramdean and Robin will be here giving you wall-to-wall coverage all week long, heading into UFC 175 and the TUF 19 finale. And then they will recap all of it next Monday night at 7 Eastern. We're taking a short break. On the other side, Priscilla Carapan presents The Shift and our weekly viral video. We are back on Fight News Now, and this week Fight Network is your only destination leading into UFC 175 and the TUF 19 finale. We're going to have wall-to-wall coverage all week long as I will be down in Las Vegas, and we'll also be presenting the UFC 175 weigh-ins this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then a special live UFC 175 post-show will be airing immediately after the fights on Saturday night with John Ramdean and Robin Black here in studio and myself from Las Vegas. We now welcome in Priscilla Carapan with this week's installment of The Shift.
Evil infects New York City and disturbing crimes are happening everywhere. That's the backdrop for the new horror thriller Deliver Us from Evil starring Eric Bana. Banana Place police officer Ralph Sarchi, who teams up with an unorthodox priest played by Edgar Ramirez, and the two attempt to solve a case of demonic possession.
There's two types of evil in this life, Officer Sarchi. Secondary evil, the evil that men do, and primary evil.
I've seen some horrible things. Deliver Us from Evil is the story of Ralph Sarchi, a South Bronx police sergeant, an undercover cop who investigates real crime in the streets of New York based on a real guy. And through a series of particular cases, he began to discover paranormal activity.
You got a name?
Joe Mendoza. It's just one of my charges.
One of your charges? What does that mean?
I'm a Jesuit priest.
Where's your collar, Padre?
Mendoza has the knowledge. I mean, he has the knowledge, but he doesn't have the faculties. So he has the faculties. I mean, he's got the inner faculty for it.
You haven't seen true evil.
The two of them really have to pair up both of their skill sets in order to conquer the evil that they've encountered. Exorcisms are real. You know, they happen often. And no matter what you think about them, they're fascinating, they're frightening.
We gotta stop this. We're all carrying around something, and we're all, to some extent, paying a price for the, as Sarchi puts it, the inner cancer.
It's scary, it's exciting, it's got action, it's got thrills, it's got drama.
You're on a ride.
That's it for the shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thanks as always, Priscilla. And as we wind down on this packed show, we made sure to leave room for our weekly viral video. And this is what our team stumbled upon this week. And that brings Fight News now to a close. I want to thank Alexis Davis for stopping by and our panel of pros who broke down some of the key fights this weekend. Be sure to keep it locked on Fight Network for all your Fight Week coverage, including the weigh-ins on Friday at 7 Eastern and the UFC 175 post-show Saturday night after the fights. The MMA Report will be up Thursday night with lots of interviews from down in Las Vegas at FightNetwork.com. And on behalf of John Ramdeen, Robin Black, Priscilla Carapen, and the Fight Network crew, I'm John Pollock, and enjoy all of the fights this weekend.